Rain pattered on the porch roof of the house on Maple Street, California, on the morning of Mary Thompson's 68th birthday. It wasn't the romantic, gentle rain from the love stories she used to watch with her late husband. This was a cold, prickling rain like needles piercing through the porch cushions and soaking the mailbox. Mary sat by the kitchen window, still in her worn bathrobe, her silver hair unbrushed and tangled. She held a cold cup of coffee, staring at the gray sky, her heart clinging to a faint hope. Maybe they'll remember today, she thought. There may be flowers, or at least a call. Mary had devoted her life to her family. She vividly recalled the early days when her husband Robert bought this house in 1996. It was a simple 2-story wooden home with a backyard full of roses and a spacious kitchen where she baked. Robert was a construction engineer, and Mary was a high school math teacher working with struggling kids in Los Angeles. Together, they built this home, every brick and wall infused with their sweat and love. The house filled with laughter when their only son David was born. Mary sacrificed sleep to soothe his nighttime cries and gave up career opportunities to care for him when he was sick. She remembered summer afternoons when David ran around the yard drawing with colored pencils and sticking his pictures on the fridge. He'd say, "You're the strongest woman in the world," Mom hugging her tightly. But time changed everything. Robert passed away from cancer 15 years ago, leaving Mary alone with her grief and responsibilities. David was in college then, and Mary sold her jewelry to cover his tuition. She took on loans and extra hours at school to spare him worry. When David married Emily, a vibrant young real estate agent, Mary welcomed her with open arms. She cared for their newborn, stayed up late, rocking the baby to sleep, cooked for the family, and even paid part of the down payment for Emily's car. Family is everything she always believed. But gradually, she sensed a shift. David called less often, and Emily referred to Mary's bedroom as the guest room instead of hers. They started talking about plans about transferring home ownership because her health was declining. The doorbell rang, snapping Mary out of her memories. She stood, her legs trembling slightly with age, and walked to the porch. Maybe it's flowers, she told herself, her heart beating a little faster. She opened the door to find a middle-aged man in a beige jacket holding a clipboard. "Are you Mrs. Mary Thompson?" he asked in a mechanical tone. Mary nodded, her smile fading. He avoided her eyes, handed her a thin white envelope, and said, "You've been served." Then he turned and walked away in the rain, leaving Mary frozen like a statue. The envelope was thin, but sharp like a paper knife. Mary opened it, her hands shaking. The black print blurred in the rain, but the words stabbed her heart. Petition for eviction. Filed by David Thompson and Emily Thompson. Reason: homeownership transition for health accommodation. Requested action: relocation to supervised housing. Effective in 30 days. She read it again and again, her heart seeming to stop. Her son, her own flesh and blood, and her daughter-in-law, whom she treated like her own, were evicting her from the home she built. Pain surged, not as tears, but as a smoldering anger mixed with boundless disappointment. Why? Why today? She whispered, her voice breaking in the rainy wind. 35 minutes later, a pastel bouquet arrived in the mailbox, delivered by a local florist. Lilies and fake eucalyptus wrapped in plastic, accompanied by a pink envelope with loopy handwriting, "To the strongest woman I know. Love always, Mary." Her hands trembled so much that she dropped it. She hadn't sent those flowers. They had used her name and her credit card to pretend a cruel joke, as if mocking her loneliness. Mary sank onto the porch chair, rain soaking her robe, but she didn't feel the cold. She felt erased, pushed out of the life she had sacrificed everything to build. That evening, Emily came home late, with red lipstick and bold high heels clicking on the wooden floor. She balanced a Starbucks cup and a phone on speaker, ignoring Mary. "Oh, the papers are here," Emily said, spotting the eviction notice on the kitchen table, her voice devoid of surprise or remorse. "Good saves me a trip." She sipped her latte as if discussing the weather. "You'll be more comfortable at Rose Hills," she added casually. "They have chair yoga, bingo, fun stuff like that." Mary stood silent, her voice gone. She looked at the apple pie she baked that morning, still warm, its cinnamon scent filling the kitchen, a pie she made to celebrate her birthday, hoping they'd share it. Emily opened the fridge, grabbed water, and said, "Oh, happy birthday, Mary. Meant to text you." Mary didn't eat dinner. She didn't cry. She went to her room, charged her phone-cleared storage, and downloaded a voice recorder app. She lay in the dark, listening to the rain tap the window like a polite thief. The fake birthday card sat on her nightstand unopened. She read it repeatedly, and slowly, her sadness turned into cold clarity. She recalled every bill she paid for them, every sleepless night rocking their baby, every temporary stay that became permanent. She slept fitfully, but woke with one thought: I won't cry. I'll act. The next morning, Emily was gone. David was in the garage cursing the lawnmower like an enemy. Mary heard metal clank, then a phone call. She wasn't eavesdropping, just passing by with a laundry basket, but then she heard it. She's still sharp, but fading fast. "We need a doctor to back us up. Mild memory loss enough to move things forward." David's voice, her son's cold as a stranger's. Mary leaned against the wall nails, digging into the wood to keep from screaming. When had she gone from mom to obstacle, from backbone to burden? She waited until he left for Home Depot, his church, then went to her room and opened a drawer. Inside was a fake power of attorney, its signature too perfect, not hers from the morphine haze of her hospital stay. She told no one. She needed to be bright, not loud. She started documenting every odd bill, every sharp tone, every suspicious letter. Each notebook page made her stronger. She thought of Robert, his words, "This house is yours. Don't let anyone take it." She had trusted her son, but no more. They thought she was fading. She would prove them wrong. Have you ever felt erased in the home you built? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to hear more of Mary's betrayal, sacrifice, and redemption story, subscribe and hit the bell. Just one word. Where are you watching from? Or what time is it? This story isn't over. Next, find out how Mary turned the tables. The rain had stopped on Maple Street, but the cold seeped into the wooden walls of Mary Thompson's home. The morning after her 68th birthday, the kitchen still held the scent of the apple pie she had baked, now cold on the counter. Mary stood before the small bathroom mirror, gazing into her tired but sharp eyes. "I'm still here," she whispered, as if to remind herself she hadn't been erased, despite her son David and daughter-in-law Emily's efforts. The fake bouquet, the birthday gift they sent in her name, using her credit card, lay wilted in the trash, its drooping lilies a reminder of their betrayal. Mary refused to drown in pain. She steadied herself, put on a thick sweater, and sat at the kitchen table with a small notebook. Its worn cover once held recipes she created for her family. Now it was a battle journal. She wrote October 23rd. "They used my card. They forged my signature. They want me gone." Each stroke of the pen carved into her resolve. Mary knew that if she didn't act this house, her memories of her husband, young David, and sleepless nights caring for her grandson would be stolen. That afternoon, Emily came home earlier than usual. Her high heels clicked on the wooden floor, her voice shrill over the phone. She strode into the kitchen, setting her Starbucks cup next to Mary's painstakingly made pie. "Oh, the pie's still here," Emily said, her tone indifferent, as if the pie were trivial, not the effort of a mother who'd given her life to her family. She cut a slice, took a careless bite, and continued her phone call. "Yes, Dr. Newman, she needs an evaluation. Probably memory loss. She's been forgetting things lately." Mary stood in the corner of the kitchen, gripping a dish towel. She wanted to scream, to confront Emily on the spot, but she held back. She remembered her sacrifices, taking leave from school to care for Emily's newborn, changing diapers, late cooking chicken soup when the family was sick. She thought it was her duty as a mother, a grandmother. But now, hearing Emily fabricate lies about her memory, Mary felt stabbed. "Memory loss," she thought. "I remember every bill I paid for you, every time you left me to clean up after your son's birthday parties." Mary quietly left the kitchen and went to her room. She opened her phone, checked the voice recorder app she'd downloaded the night before, and recorded a short clip, her voice trembling. "Today, Emily said I have memory loss. She called a doctor. They're planning something. She saved it as evidence 1. Then she opened her email, finding the florist's invoice. It confirmed the order was placed by Emily Thompson at gmail.com, using Mary's credit card ending in 487. She took a screenshot, saving it to a new phone folder labeled Truth. Each small action made her feel stronger, like rebuilding a protective wall around herself. That evening, David came home reeking of motor oil from the garage. He stepped into the kitchen and saw Mary cleaning. "Mom, I fixed the lawnmower," he said, trying to sound normal. "Thanks," Mary replied, her voice soft but cold. She watched David, the son who once slept on her shoulder as a child who drew sloppy Mother's Day cards. Now he avoided her eyes, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and sank into the sofa. Mary heard his phone ring, his voice lowering as if hiding. She stood behind the living room door, listening. "She's still fine, but we need to speed this up. The doctor says a memory loss diagnosis will make the transfer easier," David whispered. Mary's blood rushed to her ears. She wanted to and confront him, but she remembered Robert's words. "Don't let emotions lead Mary. Use your mind." She silently returned to her room and recorded what she'd heard. "They're looking for a doctor to fake documents," she wrote in her notebook, her hand shaking but her writing firm. The next morning, Mary woke before dawn. She made tea, sat by the window, and looked out at the backyard where she and Robert once planted roses. She recalled evenings on the porch swing talking about David's future. "He'll do great things," Robert had said, eyes shining with pride. Mary believed it and sacrificed everything for David's chances. She sold her wedding ring to pay his debts when his startup failed. She let Emily and David move in temporarily during hard times, even though it meant giving up her main bedroom. But now they didn't just want her room, they wanted the whole house. Mary opened the old laptop she rarely used because David said she didn't get tech. She entered the password Mary 1955. The screen lit up and she froze when she saw a desktop folder labeled House Plan. She clicked, heart pounding. Inside was a document titled Power of Attorney, a copy of one she never signed. The signature was hers, but too perfect, lacking the tremor of her hand during her hospital stay for heart surgery. She took screenshots and saved them to a small USB hidden in her old jewelry box. "They think I don't see," she whispered, "but I see everything." She recalled the last time David sincerely called her mom when he asked for money to buy a home for his son. Mary gave him a check with one condition: to take care of me when I'm old. David had nodded, eyes teary. Now those tears were a distant luxury. Mary didn't cry. She opened her notebook, wrote, "I paid the price for their love. Now I'll take back what's mine." In her darkened room, Mary felt a new strength. She was no longer the silently sacrificing mother, the ever-ready grandmother. She was Mary Thompson, the woman who taught hundreds of students to face challenges, and now she'd introduce herself to fight. Emily and David thought she was weak, but they were wrong. She wouldn't just keep her house, she'd keep her dignity. Early morning sunlight slipped through the curtains, casting faint streaks on the wooden floor of the Maple Street living room. Mary Thompson sat in an old armchair, clutching her now thicker notebook filled with detailed entries. She hadn't slept much, her mind swirling with David's cold whispers over the phone and Emily's indifferent mention of Rose Hills. Every memory of her sacrifices, sleepless nights caring for her grandson's savings, poured into David's tuition, and debts now felt like sharp blades piercing her heart. But Mary wouldn't let pain consume her. She'd decided this wasn't the time to cry, but to act. Mary stood quietly entering her bedroom, now called the guest room by Emily's saccharine voice. She opened the dresser drawer where she kept essential papers from her time with Robert. Her fingers brushed old envelopes, medical bills, Robert's handwritten letters until they touched a thin file labeled neatly in David's handwriting, Power of Attorney and Home Transfer. Her heart pounded, threatening to leap out. She opened it, and the first page revealed a power of attorney dated 8 months ago in February, when she was hospitalized for heart surgery. The signature bore her name, but it was too smooth, too perfect, lacking the tremor of her morphine-weakened hand. "I didn't sign this," she whispered, her voice trembling with anger and fear. Mary remembered that day clearly. She lay in a hospital bed, the sterile white lights making her dizzy. David and Emily visited, bringing cheap carnations and hollow words of concern. "Rest, Mom. We'll handle everything," David said, holding her hand but looking away. She'd trusted them, believed they cared. Now staring at the forged signature, she realized that was the day they began plotting to seize her home. She photographed each page with her phone hands shaking but movements precise. Each click was a step forward in a battle she never imagined fighting against her flesh and blood. She sat on the bed, the file on her lap, piecing it together. David had promised to care for her after Robert's death. She recalled days when he was a boy sitting at the kitchen table eating her cookies and sharing school stories. "You're a superhero, Mom," he'd say, crumbs on his face. Mary had sacrificed her career for David's college education and sold jewelry to cover his debts when his startup collapsed. She even let Emily and David move in after their financial struggles, though it meant moving to a smaller room now filled with their dark secrets. She opened her notebook and wrote October 24th. "I forged a power of attorney which was signed during my hospital stay. They exploited my weakest moment." She underlined forged as if it could erase the pain. Then she recalled a moment months ago when Emily let slip the truth. "You should let us manage your finances," she'd said, her voice sweet, but her eyes cold. "You're so forgetful, Mary." Mary had smiled, thinking she was absent-minded. Now she understood it wasn't forgetfulness, but seeds of doubt they planted to pave the way for evicting her. Mary stood and went to the kitchen. The apple pie sat on the counter, half cut by Emily the night before. She looked at it, feeling her heart sliced apart. But instead of throwing it out, she took a piece, eating slowly, reminding herself she still controlled the small things. She opened her phone and searched for information on detecting forged signatures and homeowner rights in California. Websites appeared filled with dry legal terms, but Mary read every line, taking careful notes. She was no longer the gentle math teacher. She was learning a new subject, the law to protect herself. That afternoon, David returned from Home Depot carrying a bag of new tools. He entered and saw Mary wiping the kitchen counter. "Mom, I fixed the garage door," he said, trying to sound casual. Mary nodded, avoiding his eyes. She saw that David was no longer the boy who hugged her when bullied at school. He was a man ready to sell his mother's legacy for profit. "Thanks," she said, her voice flat, but a plan was forming inside. Mary waited until David showered, then slipped into his small home office. There she found another stack of papers in a desk drawer, bills, letters, and a draft email to a real estate firm. Subject: plan to sell house, Maple Street. The email was brief, but chilling. "We can list in January once she's out. In a good school district, the elderly seller's story will attract buyers." Her throat went dry. They weren't just evicting her, they'd planned to turn her home into a profit machine as if she'd never existed. She photographed the email and saved it to her USB with other evidence. Then she wrote in her notebook, "They think I'm an obstacle. They're wrong." Mary recalled Robert's words. "This house is your soul, Mary. Don't let anyone take it." Grief had blurred that memory, but now she was clear-eyed. She wouldn't just keep the house, she'd keep her dignity. That night, Mary sat in the dark, phone in hand, replaying the morning's recording. David's voice echoed cold and calculated. "A doctor's confirmation will seal it." She gripped the phone, feeling her heart squeezed. But she took a deep breath, opened her notebook, and wrote the day's final line, "They want me gone. I'll make them face me." Mary was no longer the silently sacrificing mother. She was a warrior, and the battle had just begun. Morning light filtered dimly through the living room curtains on Maple Street, illuminating Mary Thompson's tired but resolute face. She sat in her old armchair, clutching a cooled cup of tea, staring out at the backyard, once filled with roses she and Robert tended. The past day's pain from her son David and daughter-in-law Emily's betrayal had ignited a smoldering fire within her. Forged documents, lies about her memory plans to sell her home, all were successive stabs, but Mary refused to collapse. She'd decided to turn pain into strength. Today she would step out to seek justice. Mary donned her favorite green sweater, a final gift from Robert before his passing, and grabbed her notebook, now a steadfast companion. Its pages are brimming with meticulous notes, the fake flower invoice, David's email about selling the house, and his recorded talk with a doctor. Each entry was a bullet, and Mary knew she needed someone to aim them precisely. She opened her laptop, searching for free legal aid for seniors in California. A website listed a legal aid office in downtown Los Angeles, a 20-minute bus ride away. Thursdays take walk-ins, she read aloud, her voice steadier than ever. She jotted down the address, preparing a file copies of the forged power of attorney email screenshots and a USB with recordings. David and Emily left early that morning, leaving the house in eerie silence. Mary stood before the mirror, tying her silver hair into a neat bun, telling herself, "I'm not a victim. I'm Mary Thompson, who taught hundreds of students to rise after failure." She stepped out, carrying an old canvas bag with all her evidence. The bus arrived on time, and as she sat by the window watching the bustling city, she felt a strange freedom. For the first time in years, she wasn't just a mother, a grandmother, or the woman forgotten in her own home. She was a warrior seeking justice. The legal aid office was in a beige building between a nail salon and a dentist's office, smelling of toner and stale coffee. Mary entered, her breath catching as the receptionist handed her a questionnaire. "Do you feel coerced? Do you still control your finances?" Mary answered each question, her handwriting clear despite her pounding heart. She was led to meet Sophia Lee, a young paralegal with loosely tied hair and round glasses. Sophia's voice was gentle yet sharp, as if she grasped the weight of Mary's story. "Mrs. Thompson, tell me from the start," she said, pen and notebook ready, eyes locked on Mary. Mary took a deep breath, placing her file on the table. She recounted the eviction notice on her birthday, the fake flowers, the forged power of attorney, and David and Emily's lies. She presented each piece of evidence from photos to the USB. "They want me in a nursing home to sell this house," she said, her voice calm but laced with restrained anger. "I paid my son's debts, cared for their child, and let them live with me. Now they call me a burden." Sophia didn't interrupt, only took notes, nodding occasionally. When Mary finished, Sophia looked up, her eyes gleaming with resolve. "This isn't just suspicious, Mrs. Thompson. This is actionable abuse. We can file a civil suit and revoke the forged power of attorney." Sophia's words were a beacon in the darkness. For the first time in days, Mary felt seen, heard. She recalled her teaching years, helping students overcome challenges from complex equations to personal struggles. Now she was the student, and Sophia was her guide. Sophia copied all documents, gave Mary a yellow folder and a to-do list, gather more evidence, log every interaction with David and Emily, and prepare for a legal battle. "You're very lucid," Sophia said, smiling faintly. "They picked the wrong person to bully." Mary stopped at a small cafe near the legal office on her way home. She ordered a latte, a rare indulgence, and sat by the window watching passers-by. The yellow folder in her bag felt like an invisible shield. She opened her notebook and wrote October 25th. Met Sophia Lee. "I'm not alone anymore." Then she remembered another ally, Alex Rivera, a former student over 20 years ago. Alex had been a skinny boy, always drawing stars in his math notebook. Mary let him stay after class and gave him cookies when his mother worked late. Now a lawyer at this legal aid office, she found their number and called. Alex Rivera spoke and a warm voice answered. Mary smiled, her heart warming. "You once said the moon looked lonely, Alex. It's Ms. Thompson, room 204. The call lasted 10 minutes. Alex remembered her instantly, his voice thick with emotion. "Ms. Thompson, are you okay?" "What's wrong?" Mary gave a brief account, avoiding details, saying only that she needed legal help. Alex arranged to meet her at a cafe near the courthouse the next day. "You taught me not to give up," he said. "Now it's my turn to help you." Mary hung up, feeling a door had opened. She was no longer the woman betrayed by her son, belittled by her daughter-in-law. She was Mary Thompson, who inspired young minds, and now she'd inspire herself. Back home, Mary saw Emily at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone beside her usual Starbucks cup. "Where have you been?" Emily asked, her tone curious but insincere. "Out for a bit," Mary replied, smiling faintly. She went to her room, locked the door, and opened the yellow folder. Inside was hope, a plan, the start of a counterattack. She was no longer afraid. David and Emily thought they held all the cards, but Mary had found allies. She wrote in her notebook, "They want me silent, but I've found my voice and I'll make them listen." The morning on Maple Street was quiet, with only sparrows chirping in the backyard. Mary Thompson sat at the kitchen table holding a hot cup of tea, her eyes cold as steel. The past days had transformed her pain into a weapon as she built a case against David and Emily. The forged power of attorney, fake flower invoice, and lies about her memory were meticulously documented. But Mary knew victory required more undeniable evidence, moments that laid bare their true intentions. Today, she'd dig deeper into the darkness of her own home. Mary stepped softly into David's small home office where he kept the old laptop she'd bought for his failed startup. She'd discovered the password was still Mary 1955, a detail that stung. It was her birthday gift to David at 30 when he promised to make her proud. Now that password unlocked his betrayal. She opened the laptop, her heart pounding as the screen lit up. Browser tabs auto-restored, and what she saw froze her blood. How to legally evict a family member in California, power of attorney in dementia cases, selling a house without all owners' consent. Each title was a cut to her heart. She clicked a draft email in David's inbox addressed to emily.thompson.realtor@gmail. Command subject house flip plan plus monetization. The email was short, but brutal. "Once she's out this fall, we'll list in January. Good school district, elderly health decline story will draw buyers. Could turn it into an Airbnb after." The final line nearly choked her. "Once the old bat's gone, we'll flip it in a week, hot property." Mary felt the floor tremble beneath her. "Old bat," she repeated in her mind, her imagined voice bitter. Her son, her blood, called her that, as if she were an outdated item to liquidate. She took screenshots of every tab and every email, saving them to a small USB hidden in her sweater pocket. Each click was a silent declaration of war. She recalled David's jobless days when she quietly borrowed from the bank to pay his debts, sparing him humiliation before Emily. She thought it was a mother's love, but now saw that those sacrifices made them see her as a tool, exploitable, then discardable. Mary opened her phone's recorder app, speaking calmly but firmly. October 26th. Found David's email. "They call me Old Bat. They want to sell the house for Airbnb." That afternoon, Emily was home at the kitchen island with her laptop earbuds loosely on a Zoom call. Mary stood in the hallway pretending to organize the dish cabinet, but her ears were alert. "Yes, Dr. Newman." "She's showing mild confusion," Emily said, her voice sweet as if selling a condo. "She forgets where things are sometimes the day. A medical evaluation is needed." Mary gripped the cabinet edge nails, digging into wood. She didn't misplace things. Last week she found Robert's old fountain pen in a box, still working perfectly. But Emily was crafting a narrative to deem her incompetent, a puppet in their scheme. Mary retreated to her room. She opened her notebook and wrote, "Emily lied to the doctor about my memory. They want a medical certificate to justify evicting me." She recalled a moment months ago when Emily accidentally dropped a paper from her real estate office listing the house's value on Maple Street. "Just a draft," Emily said when Mary asked, but her eyes flickered with panic. Mary understood it wasn't a draft, but the first step in their plan. She opened her phone, searched California elder abuse laws, noting power of attorney abuse is a felony. "I need a lawyer now." That evening, David came home reeking of beer from a work party. He entered the kitchen and saw Mary chopping vegetables. "Mom," he said, "we're eating out tonight," avoiding her eyes, "no need to cook." Mary nodded, but inside another plan formed. She waited until they left, then returned to David's laptop. She found a hidden folder labeled Plan. Inside was a detailed spreadsheet projected house sale price, renovation costs, Airbnb profit estimates. A handwritten note in the corner, "Ensure she doesn't resist. The doctor will handle the rest." Mary felt suffocated, but didn't cry. She photographed the spreadsheet and saved it to her USB with other evidence. She recalled sacrificing her health to care for her grandson while Emily worked late. She'd stayed up until 3 a.m., soothing his teething cries while Emily slept soundly next door. "I gave them everything," she thought, "and they repay me with a plan to push me out." She closed the laptop, wiped her fingerprints from the keyboard, as if she'd never touched it. Sitting on her bed, she opened her notebook and wrote the day's final line, "They think I don't see. But I see clearer than ever. I'll make them pay." Mary looked out the window at the faint moonlight in the backyard. She recalled Robert's words. "You're the flame, Mary. Don't let anyone extinguish it." That flame was now ablaze not to destroy, but to illuminate the truth. With this evidence, Mary wasn't just protecting her house and her life. Night fell on Maple Street, cloaking Mary Thompson's home in heavy silence. The yellow glow from the living room spilled into the yard, where roses once bloomed, now just memories. Mary sat on her bed, clutching her notebook thickened with entries about David and Emily's betrayal. The forged power of attorney emails plotting to sell the house and lies about her memory were the first bricks in her defensive wall. But Mary knew defeating their plan required more raw, undeniable moments exposing their true faces. Tonight she'd take a bold step. Mary opened her phone, replaying the previous day's recording of Emily fabricating confusion with a doctor. Emily's sweet yet cold voice echoed through her earbuds, another knife to her heart. While Emily attended real estate meetings, Mary recalled sacrificing sleep to care for her grandson. She thought it was family love, but now saw that they exploited her kindness, making her a pawn in their takeover game. No more, she whispered, her eyes blazing with resolve. She needed visual proof, something no lawyer or court could dismiss. Mary drove to a Best Buy a few miles away the next morning. She entered feeling out of place among shelves of modern tech. A young employee, Jason, approached, asking what she needed. Mary said a small camera that records secretly, her voice calm but firm. Jason looked surprised but didn't pry. "Security for my porch," she added, though both knew it wasn't true. He showed her a counter with a tiny camera disguised as an alarm clock, motion-activated, syncing to a phone. "Will this do, ma'am?" Jason asked. Mary nodded, smiling faintly. "Perfect." Back home, Mary waited until David and Emily left for a client dinner. The house sank into silence, only the wall clock ticking. She placed the camera clock on her nightstand, adjusting it to capture the room. She checked the phone connection, seeing a clear image of her bed. "If they want to play a game, I'll record the whole show," she thought, heart pounding with excitement and fear. She wrote in her notebook, October 27th, installed the camera. They won't suspect. That night, Mary lay in bed pretending to sleep, eyes half open, ears alert. Around midnight, she heard her door creak. Her heart raced, but stayed still, breathing evenly as if asleep. David's footsteps, limping slightly from an old high school football injury, approached. She heard the nightstand drawer open, papers rustling, then a soft sigh. David's phone buzzed and he answered in a whisper. "Yeah, she's asleep. Checking now. Meds are on track. No confusion yet, but I'll tell the doctor to speed it up." Mary lay motionless, hands clenched under the blanket, suppressing her anger. David left after a few minutes, leaving the drawer ajar. Mary waited 10 minutes, ensuring he was back in his room, then sprang up, checking her phone. The camera footage was clear. David face emotionless, opening her drawer, checking her pillbox, even snapping a photo of her medication. His actions weren't those of a concerned son, but of an employee completing a task. Mary saved the video and named it Exhibit A, David Checks Meds. She wrote in her notebook, "They want to prove I'm losing it. I'll prove they're wrong." The next morning, Mary sat in the kitchen, sipping coffee, eyes glued to her phone. She rewatched the video, each second a hammer to her shattered trust. She recalled David as a child making birthday cards with glued macaroni, calling her the best mom ever. Now he crept into her room, a thief ready to sell her legacy for profit. Mary didn't cry. She transferred the video to her USB, placing it with other evidence, emails, forged documents, and a flower invoice. That afternoon, Emily was by the pool on a call. Mary stood in the kitchen, pretending to wash dishes, but listening. "Yes, Dr. Newman is suspicious and irritable," Emily said, her voice sweet but sharp. "Not dangerous, just no longer fit to stay here." Mary gripped the sponge water dripping through her fingers. "Not fit," she thought. "I paid half the down payment for this house and raised your son. You dare call me unfit?" She opened her recorder app and captured the call, though only on Emily's side. "Emily says I'm irritable, suspicious. They're building a story to evict me," she wrote. Mary recalled years ago when she was gravely ill and hospitalized. Emily brought homemade cookies, saying Mary was like her own mother. Mary was touched. She believed Emily cared. Now, seeing Emily's lies, she knew it was a performance. She wrote in her notebook, "I thought family love was unconditional. I was wrong. But I'll make it right." That night, Mary lay in bed, eyes on the camera clock. She wasn't afraid anymore. Each video, each recording was a piece of the truth she was painting. She thought of Robert's words before he died. "You're the strongest woman I know, Mary. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." She smiled in the dark, touching the wedding ring in her jewelry box. "You're right, Robert," she whispered. "They want me to fall, but I'll make them face themselves." Dawn's light crept through the curtains, illuminating Mary Thompson's small bedroom on Maple Street. The chirping of birds outside couldn't calm the storm in her heart. Over the past few days, Mary had become a silent warrior, gathering evidence against David and Emily's betrayal, forged power of attorney emails plotting to sell the house, and videos of David sneaking through her meds. But today, she felt the need to reclaim something more profound, not just evidence, but the roots of herself buried under grief and blind trust in family. Mary stood before her old wardrobe where she kept mementos from her life with Robert. She pulled out a dusty wooden box, its cedar scent faint. Inside were Robert's handwritten letters, family photos, and a yellowed envelope sealed with red wax. Her heart raced as she opened it. Inside was a short letter in Robert's familiar slanted script. "Mary, if anything happens to me, this house is yours, not just on paper, but in spirit. You made it a home. Don't let anyone say otherwise." Below was a copy of the deed stating Mary Thompson sole owner since 1996. Mary sank onto the bed, clutching the letter, eyes blurring. She recalled days with Robert painting the living room, her baking apple pies while he told silly jokes. This house wasn't just bricks, it witnessed their love sacrifices and dreams. When Robert died, Mary let David believe the house was the family's a mistake, born of grief and trust, that her son would honor that legacy. Now she saw David wanted only money with Emily as his instigator. She opened her notebook and wrote, October 28th, found Robert's letter. "The house is mine. They have no right." Her writing was firm like a sworn oath. Mary stood and called the Los Angeles title office. "I need to confirm the deed for 432 Maple Street," she said, calm but resolute. The woman on the line typed, then replied, "Under Mary Thompson, sole owner since 1996. Still active. No legal changes." Mary exhaled a weightlifter. "Has anyone tried to alter it?" she asked. "No, ma'am. No requests filed." She hung up, smiling. They haven't acted yet, she thought. But I'll get ahead. Mary recalled months ago when David brought home bank documents. "Just insurance papers, Mom," he said, voice sweet, but eyes evasive. She hadn't checked, trusting he wouldn't deceive her. Now she knew it might have been the first step to transfer ownership. She opened David's desk drawer, finding a blue plastic folder labeled House Documents. A draft of the sale contract was inside with Emily's handwritten note, "Ensure she doesn't resist, Doctor. Newman will provide a certificate if needed." Mary photographed each page, saved them to her USB, and wrote, "They think I don't know, but I know too well." That afternoon, Emily was home at the kitchen island with her laptop on a call. Mary stood in the hallway, pretending to dust the bookshelf, ears alert. "Yes, we need the certificate soon," Emily said, voice low but sharp. "She's getting unpredictable, asking about papers. A diagnosis will make the move easier." Mary gripped the dust-cloth nails, digging into her palm. "Unpredictable," she thought. "I'm just trying to understand why my son and daughter-in-law want to sell my life." She opened her recorder app, capturing Emily's side of the call. She wrote that they're speeding up the plan, handshaking with anger. Mary recalled sacrificing her health to care for the family. When David was jobless, she worked extra school hours and cut expenses to pay his debts. She thought it was a mother's duty, but now she saw that those sacrifices made David and Emily see her as a tool, exploitable, and then discarded. She opened her laptop and searched California anti-elder abuse laws. A website explained that power of attorney abuse was a felony, and homeowners could revoke forged documents with proof of malicious intent. She noted, "Meet Sophia and Alex. Prepare a civil suit." That evening, David came home smelling of cigarettes from a friend's gathering. He entered the kitchen and saw Mary baking cookies, not because she wanted to, but to maintain normalcy. "Smells great, Mom," he said, flashing a fake smile. Mary nodded, silent. She looked at him, recalling the boy who ate her cookies in a high chair, dreaming of becoming an engineer. Now he was ready to sell his mother's legacy for profit. "Thanks," she said, voice flat, but inside a plan grew. Mary went to her room, locked the door, and reread Robert's letter. "Don't let anyone say otherwise." She felt him here, reminding her she was stronger than David and Emily thought. She wrote, "I let them exploit me too long. Now I'll take back what's mine." She looked out the window, moonlight on the backyard where she and Robert once found joy. "This house isn't just bricks," she thought. "It's me, and I won't let them take it." She tucked the letter into the wooden box beside Robert's wedding ring. She didn't cry. Instead, she checked her phone's hidden camera footage. David didn't know she'd recorded him. Each piece of evidence was another brick in her fortress. With Robert's letter and deed, Mary wasn't just protecting her house and her legacy. Night descended on Maple Street, bringing the chill of a California autumn. Mary Thompson stood before her mirror in her small room, now filled with mementos and evidence against her son David and daughter-in-law Emily's betrayal. She held a deep green silk dress, the one she wore for her 25th anniversary with Robert. She ran her fingers over the fabric, memories of happier days surfacing, but quickly pushed them aside. Tonight wasn't for nostalgia. She'd enter her final battle tonight not with tears, but with truth, sharp as a blade. Mary had prepared meticulously. In her small purse, she carried a USB with all her evidence, the forged power of attorney David's email, calling her an old bat, videos of him sneaking through her meds, and Emily's recorded lies to a doctor about her memory. Robert's letter confirming her as the sole homeowner was safely locked in a drawer. Mary had coordinated with Sophia Lee and Alex Rivera, her legal allies, to ensure everything was ready. They'd helped her craft a short, piercing speech for the Rose Hills Foundation gala, where she was invited to speak briefly. David and Emily expected her to appear, meekly smile, and fade away. They were mistaken. The gala was held at a lavish golf club in suburban Los Angeles, where chandeliers sparkled and expensive perfume mingled with pretense. Mary entered head high, the green silk dress hugging her still elegant frame at 68. In a blazer he rarely wore except to impress David, stood beside Emily, who wore a tight red dress and a stiff smile. "Ready, Mom." Emily chirped, her voice sweet but eyes cold. "Just smile and nod. There is no need to say much." Mary smiled, faintly silent, her hand tightening around her purse with the USB. The banquet hall buzzed with donors sipping wine, feigning interest in the community legacy. David took the podium, delivering a brief speech on family values and generational wealth. Mary sat at the front table, hands clasped, each word a hollow hammer. "Family is the foundation," David said, his eyes skimming past her. Emily introduced a slideshow projecting images of the Maple Street house, the front porch, the kitchen where Mary baked, and the backyard. Not one photo included her. Mary felt erased from her own life. Then her moment came. The MC, a middle-aged man with a practiced smile, announced, "Before we close, we welcome a special guest representing the spirit of the Rose Hills Foundation, Mrs. Mary Thompson." Polite applause rose, mixed with curious glances. Mary stood unwavering and walked to the podium. She set her purse down, plugged in the USB, and deeply breathed. "Thank you for being here," she began, her voice low but clear. "Today, I'll tell a story about family, not the one you just heard, but the truth." The projector flickered to life. The first slide showed the forged power of attorney with her signature false. Murmurs began. The second slide footage from her hidden camera, David rifling through her nightstand. The crowd hushed, some covering their mouths. The third is David's email with an old bat and plans to turn the house into an Airbnb. Then the audio played David's voice. "She's not well. A diagnosis will speed things up." Followed by Emily. "She won't fight. She bakes." The recorded laughter rang out, cold and cruel. The crowd fell silent. Mary looked at David and Emily, now rigid at the front table. She said they served me eviction papers on my birthday, voice steady. They thought I'd stay silent, disappear. But I watched. I recorded. And now I serve them the truth. She paused, letting her words sink in. This is a family dressed in polite betrayal. This is what happens when you assume age means absence. Applause started sparse, then spreading, not from all but enough to make David lower his head, gripping his wine glass. Emily tried to smile, her lips trembling. The MC, flustered, thanked Mary and rushed to call for dessert. But Mary didn't stay. She left the podium and walked out of the hall, leaving stunned gazes and whispers behind. The cold wind blew outside, but she felt lighter, like shedding a burden. She'd reclaimed her voice, and no one could take it away. Back home, Mary sat in the kitchen, the warm yellow light enveloping her. She opened her notebook and wrote October 29th. I spoke. They heard. Truth is my weapon. She recalled her sacrifices, selling her wedding ring to pay David's debts, giving up her main bedroom for Emily's pregnancy. She thought it was love, but now they only wanted to exploit her. Mary looked at the backyard moonlight on the wilted roses. I don't need their flowers, she thought. I'll grow my own. She opened her phone and watched a gala video by an attendee who recorded her speech. Seeing herself on the podium, voice firm, made her smile. She recalled Robert's words, "You're the flame, Mary. Don't let anyone extinguish it." That flame was now ablaze, not to destroy, but to illuminate. Mary knew the battle wasn't over, but she'd seized control. David and Emily might try to explain, but the truth was out, and no one could undo it. The morning after the golf club gala, pale sunlight streamed through the Maple Street kitchen window, but the air in Mary Thompson's home remained heavy like a brewing storm. Last night, she'd stood on the podium exposing David and Emily's betrayal with razor-sharp evidence, forged power of attorney, cruel emails, sneaky videos. Today, she didn't rest. Mary knew public exposure was only the first step. To protect her home and dignity, she had to escalate the fight to a legal battlefield. Mary sat at the kitchen table with a hot coffee and opened her battle journal. She wrote October 30th. They heard the truth. Now they'll face the consequences. Each word affirmed she was no longer the silently sacrificing woman. She recalled David's panicked eyes when she showed his old bat email and Emily's stiff smile as the crowd whispered. But Mary wasn't satisfied with public shame. She wanted real justice, and she was ready. She pulled out the yellow folder from Sophia Lee, the paralegal. She reviewed the documents, the deed confirming her sole ownership, hidden camera footage, Emily's recorded lies to the doctor, and David's email plotting the sale. Mary called Alex Rivera, her former student turned lawyer who'd vowed to support her. Alex, I need to send these to the authorities, she said, voice resolute. They've gone too far. Alex agreed instantly, arranging a meeting at his law office the next morning. Ms. Mary, they picked the wrong person to cross, he said, his voice tinged with pride. Mary spent the morning preparing 12 envelopes, each containing a meticulously copied set of evidence. The forged power of attorney David's video, the old bat email, and a concise but sharp letter starting, "To whom it may concern, I am Mary Thompson, legal owner of 432 Maple Street. I request an investigation into power of attorney abuse and attempted property theft."